One of the reasons why sin is so pervasive, it doesn't mean that it's winning, is that, and I want you to hear this carefully, prayerfully, because it's easier to sin than to be righteous. A lawyer told me not long ago, he said, judges are the laziest people on planet Earth. That's why they want to be judges, so they don't have to work. But sinners are lazy. It's easier to be a sinner. It takes effort to be righteous. I mean, you can sin without thinking about it. Righteousness requires prayer, supplication, fasting. You know, the other thing is, and this is, I don't mean to exalt Satan, and I'm not, and God knows I'm not. You can think what you want. I am tired of fooling with y'all, trying to explain everything to y'all. But for the sinner, it's easier to be on Satan's side than it is to be on God's side. Satan doesn't require what God requires. So it's easier to walk with Satan. You got to agree with God to walk with him. But with Satan, he don't require nothing. And except you just go ahead and sin. I think the other thing is that I don't mean to be flippant about that, but that's why people sin. It's easier. But the 6 days of creation, I think the other thing we have to look at, and I think Deborah had raised this question in another way. She'd raised it, but this is the question that she wanted to raise, and Minister Williams as well, is that the 6 days of creation, God said it was good, but he didn't say it was perfect. And that presents a dilemma, not a problem, but a dilemma. We weren't perfect. But beyond that, when you step away from that, Minister Williams, when you step away from the fact that not only we were good, but not perfect, anything that God creates, and he created it with a multitudinous different facets of different kinds of items within that process, has its 1% failure rate. It isn't perfect. It isn't. The trees aren't perfect. You know, you can have a mess of lambs. You can have an old flock of lambs. You can have 99 lambs, and one of them can have, only one of them could be without spot or blemish. The other could have spots, crooked teeth, crooked feet, crooked eyes, floppy ears. They're just not perfect. In the 6-day creation, if everything God created was perfect rather than good, I don't know if my mind will go up the elevator enough. I'm not that smart. But I think that essentially I want you to try to think without blowing a fuse that God would have recreated himself in every essence. And every lamb would be God. And every goat would be God. Every man would be God. Every tree, every caterpillar, every butterfly, every eagle would be God if he had created everything perfect and without sin and flawless. But the essence of God himself prevents that. Now, my mind is beginning to blow a fuse. I'm losing some of my hair now for some of the wood burning because I'm trying to think, and I can't think. I'm trying to think. You have to try to think that everything God created would have been God. No, it was good, but it wasn't God. And because it wasn't God, it can sin and fail. But there's a remedy. And we'll get to that in item number 8 when we look at the conclusion of how God put in place a remedy and a conclusion for failure. But the 6 days didn't make us perfect. It didn't even make us obedient, which brings us back to my first question. Why don't God force everybody to do what he says? He'll tell you what to do, but you're on your own after that. So John Calvin in Free Will and Predestination You're on your own. He'll tell you what the word is, but you're on your own after that. He ain't going to force you to do nothing. You do it or you don't do it. Let's look at Genesis. Let me read some of this in Genesis, because some people are not even been hanging around the Presbyterian Church, or maybe even Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know. And they don't have all the context. Look at Genesis chapter 3. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? He did say that. God did say it. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God knoweth the day that in the day that you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open. Satan is sporting here. He's saying God didn't make you perfect. What he did, God didn't make you perfect, but if you eat this tree, bam, you go from human to perfect. You go from human to God. Bam, just like that. He lied. He lied, but that's what he told her. God knows the day you eat of it, you go from good to perfect. Your eyes shall be open, and you shall be, there it is. You shall be as gods. It is right there. So, but we weren't. It didn't happen. It's just the opposite was true. That lying, two-toed devil, he lied. We didn't become gods. We become dead. Death is what happened to us in eating. There's another verse I want to consider. There's a woman in this church who used to give me a whole lot of problem. Verse 9. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. And he, being God, said, Who told you you were naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree? God knew he did. Well, for I commanded thee that thou shalt not eat. So I guess the question we raised earlier, even if God commanded everybody to be obedient, guess what? He commanded Adam to be obedient, and guess what? He didn't do it. So maybe things don't look so bad on the God side in this case after all, in terms of the amount of evidence. Remember, I raised the question earlier, why don't God command everybody to be obedient? He could command you to be obedient. He commanded Adam not to eat, but guess what Adam did? Adam ate anyway. So even if God commanded you to be righteous, you won't do it. But there was a woman in this church. I guess she thought she was some sort of prophetess or something. So I kept telling the Lord, kept showing me, some of these visions and dreams about myself being naked. Oh, that means you're a sinner. And I kept telling the woman, first I wouldn't even argue with her. I figured, what am I going to argue with her? Who was she anyway? But I tried to tell her, no, I said, what about the prophet that had to walk naked for 3.5 years? Yeah, boy, when winter comes, what's happening? He had to lay on his side for 3 years and eat birds' dung. And that's a mess. Was that sin? She didn't want to go for it. But Adam and Eve were naked because they were sinless. Once they sinned, then they started wearing clothes. But this woman actually left the church and took it to 3 other people. Evangelist Hunter, this is not the woman you're talking about, I don't think. She took 2 or 3 other people with on that naked stuff. And I'm trying to tell her, nakedness means righteousness. And when they sinned, God had to make clothes for them.